Do you want to start?
You can start.
I'm just going to run these thoughts by you. But I've been thinking a lot about words like anxiety and depression and mental health and stigma and this like big word cloud. How those words like still aren't really helping us articulate it.
Trying to like think about like what I've actually felt in these moments.
It felt like this rage that I couldn't fully disassociate from.
Immense pressure. I'm thinking.
Subsequent frustration.
Being stranded, but at the same time being in the rush and the thick of it.
For me, it felt like there was a weight around my neck at all times.
Yeah, pins and needles in my hands and my feet, and the back of my neck always gets hot. That's the first thing.
It feels like being bent over all the time, hunched over.
It's like I'm trapped by my own thoughts.
And so you don't get enough air into
It's like my thoughts have formed a like mosquito
It
net.
can get a bit suffocating. It's like a slow
I
suffocation.
become hypersensitive to every single aspect of my life,
and like I can't move
like
from
track
under
it's like
it.
what you eat,
Or like
what
I'm
you
moving
sleep.
under it
Like,
and like
oh, you ran point
rapidly
too
going
slow. I
through
just,
all
like,
of these thoughts.
all of a sudden like they just grow,
And
I
the
feel
time
like
literally just
stuck in a
slips
room
away.
and just no way out, I guess.
I think a better word to
For
describe
you,
what
I feel like a
felt
big
was
one is lost and like looking to the future and like the unknowns.
And by the end, I felt like in the thick of it, I felt hollow.
Mine is this like feeling of being so like stuffed
I was making myself
With-
throw up and
like
felt
with
much
negativity
more
and
connected
having
to
nowhere
just, like,
else to put it.
needing to expel the negativity.
Yeah, I just felt, it felt like a constant fight with myself.
Mm-hmm.
It's like low and
And
high
that was so
tide.
tiring.
But I get physical pain sometimes associated with my anxiety. All of a sudden, I just collapse out of my chair, and my whole arm goes numb.
And I was
I have
convinced
this
that I was
ripping
dying.
pain in my
I
heart.
thought I was having a heart attack.
in my chest, and I think I'm having a heart attack. And they took my vitals, and
I
they were like,
knew
you're okay.
I
And
wasn't
then
supposed to
it all went away.
keep waking my parents
And
up.
I
in the
had
middle of the
somehow
night to tell them
psychologically
that I
tricked
thought I was
myself into
dying.
thinking I was
So I
having
could
this
tell
heart
that they
attack.
were frustrated and
Subconsciously, because
confused.
I don't know what a heart attack symptom is.
But after a while, it would get so scary that I was afraid I wasn't going to wake up in the morning. So I would
That's
have
the
to go
scariest
wake them up.
thing in the world for me, is because I don't even know what's real and what's not real in that situation. And then, not knowing the outcome of that freaks me out.
Like I feel like panic is just like pouring water.
I would feel like I could like feel it like getting closer and closer to high tide. Like I could feel it inching up until all of a sudden I was soaked.
Well, so what happens when it gets here? Water.
It's basically this feeling of like I am so panicked. Like panic is really like I'm trying so hard. I'm always trying so hard to find a better word for it, but it's like I'm so tense and upset and like nervous but I cannot think of a single thing that would make me feel better. Like every place I turn my thoughts to go to try and get some relief is like chock full of negative emotions.
Okay. I can see how that would get
Big.
big and kind of foggy.
I just always know this shit is gonna happen because I get so wrapped up in wanting to say all the things that I don't say enough. I don't actually say anything. Or that I talk in circles.
Okay, well, so what is it that you want to say?
But I've been thinking a lot about when I first, like when this word anxiety, or when the notion that I have a mental illness
I didn't really
came into my life.
necessarily like understand what mental health was, and like I didn't understand that you could be unhealthy even if physically.
That's what I
you
felt
weren't
with my
sick.
situation. I didn't have the vocabulary to describe
After
it.
everything got to the point where it was interfering with school.
And it wasn't until I went to
life,
therapy
and
that my therapist was like,
I
okay,
was genuinely
you're being drained from here, you're being drained from there, you're doing what you can, and it's just like a
And I
feeling
went to
of
see a
helplessness.
therapist, and they,
And in like one word summed it up.
this is anxiety, this is what having anxiety means, here are the
And so that's the
red,
thing that I
DSM-4
didn't recognize
to
at first.
me.
And I think that's part of what was so difficult for me. Having to almost force myself to make room for that. Make room for these current layers of my identity that, needed
I didn't
attention.
realize what your mind can sort of do and how it can change you, until it happened with me, because I had this anxiety.
And to me, it didn't mean anything. I was 10. It didn't mean anything to me.
Mental health struggles and words like depressed or anxious are not self-referential terms for me. It had not been
all over the
self-referential terms
place
for me
because
up
I
until
didn't
that
know
point.
what anxiety was,
Even if we're familiar with the words anxiety and depression, familiar with various diagnoses, they exist in the abstract until you actually experience them.
A lot of kids, I think, on, my team and kids in the school have it and don't get help.
It makes everyone's experience of kind of realizing what's happening or coming to terms with what's happening.
Because it's
difficult.
crazy how much I just did not know about myself. And so when I think about that a lot, I think about, what if I had gone on not knowing what I now know? So yeah, I think that was pretty jarring for me, but I think good.
I guess it felt good to know that there was
Because,
something to
therapists
call
is able
it.
to sit there and say, no, this is normal.
Yeah.
Like, what you're feeling, what you're telling me is a normal experience.
But then I still felt like I stepped, outside of that office, and I felt like the only 10-year-old in the world who, couldn't sleep through the night, or, my brother didn't deal with this. He didn't know how to talk to me about it. My parents didn't know how to talk
But
to me about
family
it.
also, as you mentioned, those aren't always the people who are going to understand mental health.
No.
My dad was a bit more reluctant to accept that I was having mental issues because I think he lives in denial in his own way
In
about
my own
him
family.
having some.
I have said before that I have dealt with depression. They don't know how to respond to that. They don't know how to respond to the word depression. And I honestly don't even think they might know what it means.
The fundamental thing that I was trying to articulate that they weren't hearing is that I am just I need them
And I'll say,
to do a
I
little
was
bit more
depressed,
homework.
in and out of therapy. I felt really helpless, this and that. They'll be like, oh, I'm sorry.
But then again, they're just empty words because people will say it's not your fault, it's a medical condition,
But they get frustrated when.
but then still not treat you like
Yeah.
it's not your
Mhm.
fault.
Mhm.
They'll still act like they're holding you accountable for something that I feel like I'm being held accountable for something I cannot control.
And even in the moments that I have mentioned
The
depression,
thing that they both
I
said
think
that,
they shy from
I
the word and deflect it.
remember so
Not
clearly
because
I thought it was
they're
odd
necessarily
that they
trying
both
to
said
invalidate
it
my
was,
feelings, but they literally just don't even know how to address it.
why can't you just act like a human?
I think
why
that
can't you
also
just be a human?
knowing that my parents would just have
it's just
no idea how to respond or how to deal with that aspect of my struggle is what kept me from talking about it with them.
And interestingly, with friends, I think I kind of close, I don't even let being not okay around them be an option.
People just don't know how to help, and I don't think see it as pressing in those moments because the person appears so okay.
And I don't think that's a conscious thing either. I think it's just there's this stigma around mental health and not being okay at Penn and kind of just in society. So I think I keep it kind of behind closed doors.
And I think a lot of it is because you're describing your feelings. And people are like, ugh, feelings are weak, piss off,
When a
get
person
over
is
it,
mentally
that kind of-
unhealthy, they work so hard to hide it instead of to actually address it and get help.
Yeah. Well, it's also just a positive feedback cycle. It's
Yeah.
when you do emote in public, the the conscious or subconscious response of everyone around you is so markedly negative that you like have to double check it. It like
you're like,
becomes
hide
so
this.
reinforced.
Part of the problem is that it's also framed as a waste of time.
Yes.
We're like, we have other things to do.
Yeah.
And that's another issue, is that we don't make time for our feelings.
Yeah.
Because we don't see it as imperative or crucial to our survival, which it is.
No.
Which it really is.
I've had people say, I can't listen to your problems anymore.
That's horrible.
Like, you should be able to openly talk about
You
it.
need to be able to talk to the people in your life about it too, to be able to like fully thrive again.
That shame of like not wanting to tell them.
I didn't want to tell them and have it seem as if I was giving them a random, like, hey, I finally figured out an excuse for all of the stuff that went on. It's like,
And
here
sometimes
it is.
I even think, even once they buy into the like, oh yeah, no, it's an illness, like personal stigma, like those are empty words, I feel like half the time. Because it's still, people are still not recognizing that like it's debilitating or needs help.
That's the thing. People don't recognize how debilitating it is.
Yes. And how real
You know,
it is.
that upsets me. It doesn't make me anxious so much as it just upsets me. It's like...
And like, that's the thing that I'm trying to say, is that like, there's just so much that happens inside a person's head with these conditions that has honestly like kind of been erased by the use of these words. So,
And it's
first of all,
terrible
so
because people will
casually-
say like, oh my gosh, I have so much work, or like, I'm gonna kill myself. Like, it's like, there's a disconnect there. And, yeah.
So I think we use it as a buzzword when we need it, and then kind of ignore people when it really matters.
So what you're saying is like labels are not enough.
Yeah. Because I feel like these words are used so commonly lately, especially at Penn, that saying, yeah, I have anxiety feels like an excuse, even though it's not. Like, it's really not. But not even that, like, it feels like everyone has it, but it just feels like everyone says they have
in the
it.
spring, we'd be like, no, you're having anxiety, like an attack, not like you're anxious. Because I know what being anxious is.
Yeah.
You can be anxious for anything.
Yeah, people are like, oh, this gives me anxiety, and you're like, no, you're stressed.
Mm-hmm.
You get nervous.
But
You don't have
anxiety is
anxiety.
different, and I would just shut down.
And it's not a cop-out. Like, it's, if you're really experiencing what I'm experiencing, I don't think it's a cop-out.
And that in itself, and that's why people don't speak about it and continue to struggle on their own for so long, instead of seeking help because you feel like, your problem just isn't valid.
I don't know, it's still worth talking about, even in some small way.
I think a lot of it is validation.
Absolutely. Because at least, like, the words might add up to something.
Yeah.
It like really feels good.
There's
It
a
like
community
really does
aspect
help.
to it,
Yeah, there absolutely is.
And that's actually a really good point. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like the whole notion that there are other people in your same situation, and
Yeah.
that it's not something that makes you an inferior person.
I just want it to be said that, like, there is still so much more that is not being said.
So that is your message. That
That there's just more to say, and it's worth talking about. That's it.
okay.